Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm replacing a bathroom faucet with a new product. Today we will be replacing a 4-inch or a center set bathroom faucet. A center set faucet is a little bit different than the 8-inch widespread faucets found within some homes. And if you are looking to replace your product, it's a good idea to know exactly which one you're dealing with. A center set faucet like this one may have a single lever or it may have dual handles, but it will always be one piece, one body that goes through anywhere from 2 to perhaps 3 different holes, depending on the style you have. If your faucet is made up of 2 or 3 different pieces, which all go through separate holes, a 4-inch center set faucet is not going to work for this application. So make sure you purchase the correct product for the application at hand. Now, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is turn the supply valves off underneath the sink. These are quarter turn valves, so we're just going to rotate them a quarter turn. Yours may be multi-turn, in which case you'll rotate them clockwise until they come to a full stop. We then want to test that water did indeed shut off all the way, so we'll open up the faucet, and I like to go ahead and swivel from cold to hot to really check both sides completely. I will be replacing the drain assembly to this faucet as well, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the trap before I get started with anything further back. This just makes it a little bit easier to get to the items in the back part of the cabinet. I'm then going to remove the supply lines from the shutoff valves. It's a good idea to hold back on the valves if you're not sure how secure they are at the wall. I just installed these valves recently, you can see that video up above, so I knew that the supply lines were not installed so tight that I needed to hold back. And we're going to do the same for the hot side as well. I am now disconnecting the supply lines from the faucet up above. You don't always have to do this, but it does make it easier to access the hardware. The faucet I am removing utilizes a traditional style pop-up rod, so I'm disconnecting the pop-up rod from the pop-up assembly itself. This is usually held in place by one bolt that is locked on to the pop-up rod. You loosen that bolt and the pop-up rod can come free. And we'll take a small pair of pliers to the pop-up system itself just to completely remove all the hardware. This will make it a little bit easier to spin the drain out when it's time to do so. And let's pull that drain out of there. We will now go ahead and remove the actual pop-up drain assembly itself. At this point, all we need to do is take a large pair of pliers to the nut, loosen it up, and then you can usually get the rest of it to loosen up by hand. I got fortunate here and was able to unthread the pop-up assembly from the top piece up above. It's not uncommon for the entire pop-up assembly to spin and rotate and not actually loosen up when you go to do this step. In those scenarios, I like to push the entire pop-up assembly upwards, and then up above the sink, you could take a pair of pliers to the top portion of the pop-up drain. Sometimes you can loosen it, other times you'll have to bend that flanged portion until it breaks off. Let's pull that rod out of there. Now we're going to remove the faucet from the sink itself. What we're going to do is loosen up these nuts, and then the washers will drop out as well. The faucet can then be pulled out from the top side. Here we go. With both the faucet and the drain removed, it's time to clean up this section. Personally, I like using scrubbing bubbles and a Scotch-Brite pad. I feel like this gets it cleaned really well with minimum amount of effort, but feel free to use whichever cleaning products you prefer. We're also going to take this time to remove any silicone that may be in place underneath the drain. Sometimes yours will be installed with plumber's putty. You'll want to clear out any dried up plumber's putty as well. While I'm preparing this sink for the new products, this is a great opportunity for me to let you know that my daughter is due in October, and I'm aiming to hit channel monetization by that point. If you don't already know, YouTube requires a minimum of 1,000 subscribers in order to be able to fully monetize your channel. So if you enjoy this type of content and you would like to see more DIY plumbing tips, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. We are now going to place the new faucet into position, and down below we have 2 plastic nuts that are going to thread onto the hot and cold shank of the faucet. We're going to thread those up all the way. I'm then going to use my rigid sink install tool to tighten down the nuts on this faucet. Affiliate links to this tool and everything else you'll need to complete this job can be found in this video's description. If you do happen to make a purchase using one of these links, I make a small commission at no additional charge to you. Thank you so much for your support. We're now going to use the same rigid tool to install our new supply lines. I like using stainless steel braided supply lines. I find them to be the highest quality available. Once connected to the faucet, we're now going to install the supply lines to the shutoff valves as well. I'm using a pair of Wera Jokers. This is a specialty wrench that allows me to quickly tighten down the supply lines without making any kind of marring or scratching on the nuts. While you will find a link to this tool in the description, it's a little bit overkill if this is the only job that you're purchasing it for. Just know that a normal pair of pliers will work perfectly fine. A few scratches on the surface of the nut may not be the most professional look, but it's not going to hurt anything either. Now that the faucet is in place, we're going to prepare the new drain assembly. This is a push style drain. It does not utilize the same pull rod. We're going to remove the nut as well as the larger gasket, which will be installed down below. Some of these drains will include a smaller gasket for use up top. We are going to go ahead and discard that gasket. I'm really not a big fan of using this gasket. It doesn't always seal up against the sink properly and can create premature leaking. Sometimes will even leak immediately upon completion of the job. And in many cases, it actually adds a little bit of height to the portion of the drain assembly that's sticking out on the top side. This extra height can trap water at the sink, preventing it from draining 100%. You won't have drainage issues, but you also won't have a perfectly dry sink. I'm OCD, that bothers me. If it doesn't bother you, and if this gasket will work in your situation, feel free to use it. I'm applying pipe dope to the face of the larger gasket. This is the one that will be installed down below the sink. I just find that installing pipe dope helps to go up a little bit farther and create a better seal. Now this is controversial. There is a debate in the plumbing industry on whether or not you should be using silicone or plumber's putty on applications such as this one. I prefer to use silicone for a couple of reasons. I found that when dealing with plastic drains and or culture marbled sinks, you really don't want to tighten the drain assembly too tight against the sink. Otherwise, you run a much greater risk of cracking the sink or the drain assembly than you do of actually making a correct seal. With plumber's putty, you have to really crank that seal down tight in order to get it to be leak free. With silicone, you get it nice and snug, then just a little bit tight beyond that, and it's going to hold, not be a problem, and not put undue stress or strain on the plastic drain or cultured marble sinks. Beyond installation ease, I've also found that silicone tends to hold up better long term than plumber's putty. Some may argue that silicone is more difficult for the next guy, and though I do value making the job easier for the next person, we've already seen that removing the old silicone from the drain really isn't that complicated, and if it provides a better long-term seal, I personally think this is worth doing. Now if you want to use plumber's putty, by all means feel free. I'll link that up above as well. Just know that silicone is my preference, and that's the reason why. We are now going to tighten up the nut and larger gasket down below. Again, we're going to make this about snug, and then just a little bit tight beyond that point. We are now going to remove the packaging plastic from the top portion of the stopper, and then go ahead and thread it into position. Not all will thread in position, some just simply push down. You'll have to check with your particular product. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our trap. If yours is an aged product, it may be worth considering just putting a new one in. They really don't cost that much money. In my case, I knew mine was in good shape, so I just simply wiped down the washer, installed the nut and the washer back onto the pop-up assembly, and tightened the trap in place. I do like to then take a medium pair of pliers and snug down each nut, including any that are part of the drain system that I didn't work on. Notice that I also checked the back nut connection. I'd recommend you do the same. With that complete, we'll turn water on, fill the sink up. You'll see me checking with my arm. I'm checking to make sure that hot water does indeed arrive on the hot side. If hot and cold are backwards for you, you can always reverse which supply valve the supply line is hooked up to. Once the sink has finished filling all the way, we'll go ahead and drain it down and check underneath for leaks. And with that, our new faucet and drain have been installed. If this video has been helpful, leave it a like and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next one.